Hey everyone, it's METAGAMESGX here, and we are going to go over the best Mulcharmy Fuwalos lines in the game for Branded Despia, because I think Branded is an incredible deck post-Allen. We just saw it double top the Greek Nationals, the Dutch Nationals. You know, Branded is back and better than ever, and with the new support on the horizon, let's try to learn what you should do when you get Fuwalos, whether you run Sanctifier, whether you don't run Sanctifier, and showing you guys some really cool lag combos on top of it that you can do through Mulcharmy. So let's get right into it. If you guys want to see more videos like this, leave a comment down below and leave a like. And please make sure you're subscribed for more daily Yu-Gi-Oh videos on Branded, including streams and shorts. We're on the road to 20K. Very much would appreciate it. It helps the algorithm. Let's get right into it. Let's go. The first combo is your best Fuwalos line without Sanctifier, because I've been seeing a lot of questions about this because there's been a few different topping deck lists where they don't run Sanctifier and people are like, what do you do if you get Mulcharmy Fuwalos? So I'm going to show you guys what you do when you get Fuwalos, and this gives you 3 interruptions while only giving them 2 draws. So first you go normal summon Aluber, and then you use Aluber effect. For this combo, you are going to need at least 2 discards, but that is usually fine because, you know, Fuwalos isn't going to be live after turn 1 or 2, so you're going to have the discards. So you go Aluber effect, and then Aluber is going to search out your Branded Fusion. And then you go Branded Fusion. Now, your opponent chains the Mulcharmy Fuwalos here, and you're like, okay, at least we didn't get ashed. So then you go Branded Fusion, send the Fallen of Albaz, but then importantly here, you need to send the Albion the Shrouded Dragon to the graveyard, because this card also mentions Fallen of Albaz, and it counts as a Fallen of Albaz in the graveyard. So that's the important part here. And now we can go out into the Lubellion the Searing Dragon. Now at this point, you've given your opponent 1 draw, which means they've gone through Upstart Goblin. This is fine, because then we're only going to give them 1 more draw. We'll go Lubellion effect, discard 1 of your discards, and then you can go Lubellion spin back itself. You don't technically need the second discard, but it does give you 1 more layer of interrupt. And then you spin back the Lubellion plus the Shrouded Dragon in the graveyard, because it counts as a Fallen of Albaz, into the deck, and make the Mirror Jade. Now, at this point, you have Mirror Jade, which has a banish on the board, plus an Albaz in the graveyard, and at this point, you just passed your opponent. They are currently +1 off their Fuwalos, which isn't ideal, but also, you know, when you are able to at least still put up a board of multiple interrupts, I feel like that is perfectly acceptable, because most hands still will not be able to play through this. So you pass your opponent, and you are going to let your opponent have to play the game. You let Mirror Jade do its thing, and then you can go Mirror Jade effect to banish by sending, very importantly, the Rinbrum the Striking Dragon. And then you can banish a monster on your opponent's side of the field. So great. So now that's happened. You also have the Rinbrum in the graveyard, which is another interruption. So when your opponent summons another monster that you can fuse off with the Fallen of Albaz, you'll chain Rinbrum effect to target its Albaz in graveyard and banish itself to summon the Albaz. This is where the last discard comes up, and then you use Albaz effect to discard the last discard, and then you can fuse off whatever your opponent summons. So, you know, hopefully it's either into Albion or Lubellion at this point, but, you know, also Sanctifier maybe, depending if it's like a White Forest stack or even Titaniclad. Or even maybe Stapelia if they have a fusion or something like that, but Albion most likely, and then Albion will be able to use its effect and banish itself in the Fallen of Albaz. And then you can summon out you can either summon out a Draco Stapelia, but in this case, I'm just going to summon out a Chaos Star Source, because that is a pop 2, so you essentially get 3 interruptions, because you fused off something with the Fallen of Albaz that you summoned off the Rinbrum, you have the banish off the Mirror Jade, and then you have whatever fusion that you make off of the Albaz. So that's pretty good, all things considered, because especially stuff like Malice and even Ryzeal like variants will have a tough time playing through this, even with their 2 draws. They'll have to really, you know, draw out the Called By, draw out the Talents, and in the TCG with those cards only being at 1, this is going to be a pretty reliable Fuwalos line. Now, the other Fuwalos line, obviously, is going into just Sanctifier under Branded Fusion, and then you go Sanctifier effect, and then you can summon the Albaz, and that's 2 interruptions, but you give your opponent 1 draw. So that's kind of the trade-off. I think you could actually do this other line without Sanctifier, even with Sanctifier in your deck, because this gives you more interruptions. It just depends on what deck you're playing against. Like, is it like Malice where they can't really play through a board with Engine, or is it like Mitsurugi where they have more board breaking and the Engine? So I think you probably need to give them less draws. It just depends. So let's show you guys what the standard Fuwalos combo is that I've been doing. So this just requires basically one discard plus an Aluber, just like normal. So let's just get our Aluber. So this combo takes one less discard than the combo we just showed you guys, and it gives one less draw, but you get one less interrupt. So you go normal summon Aluber. Aluber effect is hopefully going to go through, and then you search the Branded Fusion. Then your opponent is going to Fuwalos you either on Branded Fusion or just before it happens. That's fine. Then we go Branded Fusion still, and then we can go send the Fallen of Albaz, and then we're also going to send the Cartesia to the graveyard, and then we are going to make the Sanctifier. So Sanctifier here is pretty good because we can pass to our opponent on this, and Sanctifier is also an end board piece. It could grab a monster out of either graveyard, 2 monsters, so, you know, it can also just, like, interrupt your opponent doing stuff in their own graveyard, but more importantly, you're going to probably use its effect to summon Albaz, and then you can summon either the Cartesia that you set, so you can fuse it off with your own Albaz, or preferably you use it to fuse off something your opponent has, and then you give your opponent a Cartesia or like maybe a hand trap in their graveyard, like the Fuwalos, which is pretty useless, right? Unless it's like Ryzeal where they can rank for it. You always have to be careful. But you want to make sure you at least summon a target that you can fuse off with, I think, at least. So you'll go Sanctifier effects, target Albaz, target the Cartesia, and then you can go Albaz effect, fuse off the Cartesia, or once again, if it's your opponent's monster for another interrupt, which I think is preferable, you then do that, and then you can go Albaz effect, and then summon out the Albion, and Albion effect can then, once again, banish itself and Albaz to make then a Chaos Star Source or a Dracostapelia at this point. You know, if you have more discards, you could even go into Lubellion and maybe do something else there, but there's not a lot of other options. So I like this line because it gives your opponent one less draw, and you still get 2 interrupts off of it. So, like, if you already have non-engines such as, like, Super Poly or Forbidden Droplet, I think this line is actually, like, a little bit better than the other line that we just showed you, because giving certain decks draws just can really put them in. Like, against Mermail, I don't want to be giving them more engine pieces, because then they just start, like, their engine pieces can play through 2 hand traps or, like, 2 interruptions. Like, Neptibus is crazy, so stuff like that. So now I want to show you guys what the best Fuwalos lock line is, and then also this golden Swordsoul line that I've been wanting to show you guys, because you can make Lad under. You can do this line with Golden Swordsoul instead and then make Lad with it. So let me show you guys. Alright, now I'm going to show you guys the same kind of combo, except you get way more. You need a couple more cards in rotation, but they're pretty common cards in the deck, so you'll see this combo a little bit more of the time, and if you see these cards in rotation, you'll know when to go for it. So you'll just need a Aluber plus a single discard, but then you also want Cartesia and Shrouded in rotation. So for this combo to work, your opponent's going to go Fuwalos, and you're like, okay, this is how we know we go this line. They could also do it on Branded Fusion, but you go Aluber effect, search out the Branded Fusion, and then you can go Branded Fusion effect, and then you go send the Golden Swordsoul plus the Fallen of Albaz to the graveyard, and then you get to go into the Sanctifier. And then here at this point, you just pass, which is kind of interesting because you do have a live Shrouding Cartesia, but if you want to be able to get more draws under Fuwalos, you should just pass under this with this kind of hand. So then you pass to your opponent, and then you go Sanctifier effect. Sanctifier is going to target the Golden Swordsoul plus Fallen of Albaz in the graveyard, and then you summon out the Fallen of Albaz plus the Golden Swordsoul, and then you go Fallen of Albaz effect, discarding the Cartesia to the graveyard, and then you can fuse off the Fallen of Albaz plus the Golden Swordsoul that you just summoned off the Sanctifier, and then you can go into the Albion the Branded Dragon, and then you can go Albion the Branded Dragon effect to then banish the Fallen of Albaz plus the Aluber to make a Lubellion, the Searing Dragon, and then Lubellion, the Searing Dragon, will go Chainlink 1, discarding your discard, and then you can go Chainlink 2, Golden Swordsoul in graveyard to banish itself to target Cartesia in the graveyard to special summon it. Since it's a light spellcaster in your graveyard or hand, Golden Swordsoul will be able to target it and then special summon it, since a monster was banished face up on the field while it was in the graveyard. So then we can summon out the Cartesia, and then we are going to have to fuse back the Albion, the Branded Dragon, plus the Banished Fallen of Albaz, and then we get to go out into a Mirror Jade. And at this point, we have a Banished with a Mirror Jade, but then we also have Cartesia, and obviously Mirror Jade can then give us even more follow-up, whether it's, you know, Titanclad or like an Albion. And then we can go Cartesia effect to then fuse off the Lubellion plus the Shrouded in the hand. This is why we kept the Shrouded in the hand, because it's a dark level 8 dragon plus a light level 8 dragon. And then we can make the Light and Darkness Dragon Lord, which is another 3 Omni Negates on top of just the banish. And you gave your opponent 1 draw under Fuwalos. So this is just like a way better board than I think you can make under the standard Sanctifier Fuwalos line. You just have to end up running the Golden Swordsoul in the deck to send off of the Sanctifier, and then you have to have like Cartesia in rotation and Shroud in rotation, which once again is pretty easy to do with things like Fusion Deployment, and like ways to basically get to the Shrouded Dragon, whether it's, you know, Gold Sark or just hard drawing it. All right, now last but certainly not least, we have a Fuwalos line where you get to lock. So with this line, we are going to have a discard, and then we are going to have Saronir plus Branded and High Spirits, because these cards can get us to Branded Fusion under Imperm, and then also get us to a situation where we can lock. So here we're going to go, and we're going to get Fuwalos in the draw phase. It could be also whatever and at any point, but we'll just say your opponent did Fuwalos us. That's fine. We're going to go Brand High Spirits. It can be in the draw phase or in the main phase. Draw phase to play around Droll, if you think that's going to be a thing. And then send the Saronir, and then reveal also the Albion. And then we are going to be able to then search out the Shrouded Dragon. And then on resolution, we can go Bestial Saronir effect to then send the Branded Retribution to the graveyard. And then we can go into main phase. We can then go Shrouded Dragon effect to then send for cost a Branded Spell or Trap card from our deck to the graveyard. And then we can send the Branded Fusion, and then we can put it to the bottom of the deck to then get our draw. Draw does not really matter too much. Then we can go Branded Retribution, targeting the Branded Fusion in the graveyard, and get it. And at this point, we go Branded Fusion, even though we're under Fuwalos, because we will still be able to make a very competent end board under this. We will then importantly send the Cartesia plus the Fallen of Albaz to the graveyard to then make another Sanctifier. So what changes with this line, though, is that we have the Branded and we have the Albion in the rotation plus the Cartesia, so we're going to be able to lock with this line. And we only give our opponent 1 draw. So then we end up going into the end phase because we have nothing more to do in the main phase, and then we can go Cartesia effect to add to hand, and that's great because then we have the Cartesian rotation to make another to make a Grand Guignol, and then we can go Albion effect to then target or to then set or add a Branded Spell or Trap card. We get the Branded in red because this will be able to target our Albaz on our opponent's turn that and be able to do things. This is why I love High Spirits, because it insulates your lines through hand traps and it makes your standard lines even better. So then we set the Branded in red and we pass to our opponent. At this point, we can just wait for our opponent to stick a card on the field so we can't just get impermed. And then at that point, we can go Branded in red, target the Fallen of Albaz in the graveyard, and then fuse off itself plus the Cartesia in your hand that you added back off the Branded Fusion. And then you can make a Grand Guignol, and then Grand Guignol can use its effect to then send a light or dark level 8 or higher monster to the graveyard, and which point we're going to send the Ido to the graveyard, and then we can go Sanctifier effect, target the Ido, and then we can target anything else. It's not the most follow-up, but we do also have the option to summon the Saronir, so something like double Retribution comes up in a line like this, because if we summon the Saronir and just send it to the graveyard, whether it's crashing on our opponent's turn, we can then get the Branded Fusion back for crackback. So if you're doing this kind of line, I'd probably recommend double Retribution, because with this kind of line, you do also get Saronir just ends up being one of your best grind game pieces, and which is why I'm running the card at 3 right now. So guys, what was your favorite Fuwalos line that we went over? I went over the 4 best Fuwalos lines that Branded Despia has, whether it's in TCG or in Master Duel. These all work for Master Duel as well, so I'm going to, whether you got Max Seed or Fuwalos, these lines will do you very well and show you how to play Branded through hand traps. It shows you how to layer your end boards. As you guys see, Rinbrum, Light and Darkness Dragonlord, Mirror Jade, and Sanctifier are just the best cards in this deck that allow you to extend through hand traps on your opponent's turn, especially Grand Guignol. So with that being said, what's your favorite line? Which one are you going to be going for? And do you guys like the lock or not? Leave a comment down below. And like I said, if this video gets to 100 likes, we will do another follow-up with a couple more combos that we could show off. I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you all for 11,000 subscribers. Check out my website down below. Click the join button if you want to help support the channel today, and subscribe. We are on the road to 20,000 subscribers. Everything helps. Leave a like. I really would appreciate it. It helps the algorithm. I love you guys, and have a great rest of your day.